but we have a packed program today. Good morning, and welcome to all of our alumni who are here for reunion. Let's see. I know there's a very special 50th reunion class in the house. Where's that class of 74? The Greens of 74. There they are. Okay. All right. And as if the 50th reunion were not enough, we have a great 60th reunion class here, the class of 64. We were just saying 60 is the new 30, so there you go. And I don't know, is Joan Dunn here yet from the class of 49? Oh, there she is, Joan, class of 1949, 75th reunion with her granddaughters. There they are. Joan, welcome, welcome, welcome. And I know we have other classes from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and on into the 2000s. So I want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming. We also, of course, have our wonderful Trinity students. Let's see all the Trinity students here. Let's see you, Trinity students. And all of our faculty and staff, welcome. This program is very exciting. It's going to be like a movable feast today. People will be coming and going, and we've got a lot going on. So I'm very pleased to welcome you. Today we gather to contemplate the issues encompassed in our theme, Democracy on the Ballot. Now, I want to stress what this symposium is and is not. It's an opportunity to think about a broad range of issues we face in our nation, to probe the values at stake in our electoral choices, and to think about likely outcomes. Our intention is to do this in a respectful, thoughtful, academic way, typical of Trinity, our students, faculty, and alumni. This is not an occasion to debate the candidates. We're not going to get into that, or parties or partisan tactics. Now, we know that everybody probably has an opinion and very strong feelings, right? And that's why we want to keep it civil, right? So you, of course, are welcome to express whatever opinion you want, because this is a free speech forum. But from Trinity's perspective, this is an opportunity to explore values, issues, and to think about some of the great issues at stake for our democracy. We know there will be speakers who might make some sharp partisan comments, and that's their right. It is a free speech forum, and we hope everyone will be respectful, whether you agree or disagree. Let me underscore, in welcoming speakers from different perspectives, that doesn't mean that Trinity is endorsing any particular perspective. It's important today in higher education that we stress the free speech forum and the fact that we welcome all perspectives, because that's part of what we do as universities, and it's important for us. But of course, at Trinity, what's really important are the values that we hold dear that come to us from the Sisters of Notre Dame and our long tradition in Catholic social teaching. So you're likely to hear a lot about social justice issues today, especially from our friends at Network, from Stephen Schneck over our lunchtime. Those are issues that have animated Trinity's life for 125 years and continue to animate us today. We also will hear a lot about issues that affect our campus community. We will hear a lot about immigration. Many of our students are immigrant students, some of them are undocumented, and these are incredibly important issues for our students. We hear a lot about the quest for racial justice. Our student body today is 56% Black and 30% Hispanic, and about 70% Pell Grantees, very low income students, 95% female. All of the issues you read about that affect persons of color and affect low-income persons affect our students, and our students are very concerned about how the election will affect them, and that's why we want to talk about ways they can engage sensibly and smartly and with grace and dignity in the electoral process. So with such a difficult political season upon us, you might ask, well, why has Trinity chosen to thread the needle during reunion? Isn't this a time for just laughing and happiness and carrying on? Well, it wouldn't be Trinity if we didn't have a heavy academic component, right? If anything, our alums know we're a very serious institution. For 125 years, Trinity has stood strong as a learning institution, a place devoted to the high ideals of intellectual attainment, not for its own sake, but for its essential use in the formation of a good society. The issues at hand this year are difficult, often emotional, but in the end, how we learn about them, what we take from them, will help us to construct a better society going forward, and will especially galvanize the leaders of the future who are here today in our students. So we hope that our students will learn from this today. We hope that the intergenerational dialogue between alumni and students will help everyone to understand and think about these issues. We will start this morning by hearing from students and a member of our faculty. Dr. Joshua Wright is professor of global affairs. He is an eminent historian. He's also an author of a number of books. And Richard, if you could put up the first slide so everyone can see, and the bios are actually in your packets as well. One of my favorite books that I read, Dr. Wright wrote a book about Kanye West, which I commend to you. It's excellent. And he engages our students in a great deal of experiential learning here in town. He also, some of you may have met Dr. Wright and his students through the Oral History Project that he is leading with our alums, and it's a very important project. We also have students, and I'm going to let Dr. Wright introduce the students. So without further ado, Dr. Josh Wright and our students, come forward, please.
Everybody. Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? Okay. So we have two very dynamic students who are with us today. I want to introduce both of them, and then we'll get started with our panel discussion. So we have Shaleekah Ali.
Hello, everybody.
And she is class of 2027. She's a double major here in political science and global affairs. And then also we have Lakshmi Mosquera-Herrera, all right? And she is a major in global affairs. She's also a minor in Latin American developmental studies, all right? So this is gonna be a lightning round, and what we're gonna do, we have a series of a few questions that I'll be asking both of the students to respond to. Again, this is gonna be a lightning round, meaning that we'll be here for maybe 20, 25 minutes or so, and we're just gonna be engaging each other on some important issues involving this year's upcoming election. All right, so to get us started, my very first question is simple. What does the election mean to you? Shaleekah, you wanna start us?
Yes, I can start. What this election means to me is we are at a pivotal moment in our nation where we are deciding where we go from here. So are we going backwards? Are we going forward? Are we being progressive? That's where we are right now. So I think that we just have to be there. We have to vote, we have to get out, we have to do what we need to do to make sure that we are moving forward and not back.
Lakshmi, what about you?
For me, this election is deeply personal. This is because, for me, it's about taking a stand for communities like mine that have been often overlooked. I come from a background, I'm Afro-Latino, I'm an immigrant. So for that in itself, like, I think about issues like immigration, I think about what's impacting my family, and I see what the candidates are saying about me or about my family, and that is deeply personal to me. I think voting is more than just a civic duty. I think it's about belonging. Voting rights has a huge history, and that in itself shows how deeply important voting is. So to me, the election is about not only just like how people are impacted, but also how people are choosing to use their right and to impact communities like mine.
Okay, very good, very good. Did you all have a chance to vote in our last election by any chance?
Yes, I did vote.
I am not eligible to vote, unfortunately.
Okay, I understand. All right. My next question, what are two critical issues that you want Kamala Harris or Donald Trump to address if they get elected to Congress? Lakshmi, I'm going to start elected to office. Lakshmi, I'm going to start with you.
For me, the top issue I'm worried about is immigration reform. Regardless of the candidate, it is obvious that the immigration system is currently needs work. I say that not coming from a partisan view, but I say that as someone who has done migration work. I have advocated for immigrant communities in organizations like United We Dream, but I have also personally been a migration policy intern for organizations like American Friends Service Committee. And so I have seen what these communities are facing, and I think that it's very important for, regardless of the candidate, for them to address immigration as it's a critical issue. I also think about things like racial equity. As a Trinity student, I see every day how that issue impacts all of us, and I think it's important for either candidate to address that.
I definitely agree. I think my biggest issue would be education. I feel like the United States doesn't fund education as they should. As a mother of 5 girls who have 2 children with IEPs, I am there all the time. I am very active. And the money, resources that we should be having, we are giving them off to other things that are not a top priority. My second view would be, it would be foreign policy. Right now, we're in a war. We're in multiple wars all around the world, and we don't want it to escalate to a bigger war. So if we are able to fix these policies, connect, make better relationships with other countries, I think we will be better off.
So let me ask you all this, right? We have a lot of younger voters who are, excuse me. Yeah, so my follow-up question to that is we have a lot of younger voters who are very passionate about particular issues, right? And some have said that they may not vote or they may not support a candidate if they don't address that issue that's of concern to them. So you have both just addressed what really matters to you. If a candidate fails to address that issue or has not said enough about that particular issue so far as they've been campaigning, would that be enough to make you not vote at all or to vote for the other person? Lakshmi?
For me, I would say that regardless of whether or not the candidate is addressing the issues that I care about, I think about community, and I think about the people that are in my life, and I see how maybe it doesn't impact me, but how it would impact them. When I think about things like women's rights, I personally see how that would impact me and the people around me, and even if they don't address immigration, they would address a topic like that. As we know, either candidate has a strong stance on that. So I would say it's really important, and I think it's in this conversation to address the fact that people right now are so polarized that they are not addressing the fact that we are in a country that is supposed to be a melting pot, right? It's supposed to be a country that is a community of people from all over. And I think that for us to be able to actually have that happen, we need to realize that it's not a one issue thing. It's issues that impact all of us. And I think we really need to think about community in that to answer your question.
Good point. I definitely agree. As I tell my kids, this does not start or end with the president. We're here. We're here to push this forward. So if we are able to build communities that care as much as about the issues that we care about and move forward with them, we'll be at a better place.
So Shaleekah, you've mentioned that you're a mom. Do you feel comfortable watching the debates between the candidates with your young people? And the reason I ask that is because the tone. Hello, okay. Thank you, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The microphone that I've been working with has not been that good. So what I was saying was that as a mom, do you feel comfortable watching the back and forth, the debates between our candidates? And the reason I say that is there've been some nasty rhetoric that's been thrown about, back and forth between the candidates, right? How do you feel about the tone between the two candidates and what's been said?
I feel like the tone is nothing new. We've seen this before. We've heard rhetoric like this. And yes, I am comfortable sitting my children in front of this because I'm giving this to them. This is like a token. Here, I'm giving this to them so they'll know the importance of their vote. They'll know the importance of getting out there. They'll know the importance of being activists. Like that's what we need to be in right now. And I feel like the young children of today are taking this role and they're going with it and they're doing amazing things with it. So it's more time we can spend with them, showing them these things, the better we'll have, a better nation we'll have.
Lakshmi, same thing. What do you feel about the tone that we've seen, between the candidates?
It's a hard question for me because I came to the U.S. when I was around 10 or 11, and I have seen such a shift in that short period of time. I'm now 21. I have seen such a short, I have seen the shift happen so quickly from a country where you could speak about issues without people getting riled up to now I am currently in conversations with people where I can't say certain things without having it become a fiery debate. And so I think the tone is something that needs to be addressed, because for a country to have a democracy where people are feeling okay about talking about issues is really important, right? I don't think that people should be scared to talk about issues in fears of retaliation, which we have seen happen. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and regardless of the candidate, is something that's very important for, I think, the social fabric of democracy.
So history could be made. History could be made in the next couple of weeks or possibly after that if we don't know the decision the day of the election. But if Kamala Harris does win, she will become our first woman to serve in the White House as the president. She'll also be our second president of color. She's downplayed that, though, in a lot of her campaigns when she's speaking in public. I heard her in an interview just recently, and they asked her why, she's been downplaying that, and she said, well, you could look and you could tell I'm a woman, right? I mean, it's obvious, so I don't have to keep repeating this. And obviously, you could look and you could tell that I'm a person of color as well. And when President Obama ran for office back in 2008, he also chose to kind of downplay some of the significance of what would have happened. But I want to come to you all as women of color. How significant do you think it would be if Harris were to become our president? And, do you agree with that strategy of what she's doing in terms of not making it a big issue? Lakshmi, you want to go?
Yes. I understand where Kamala or where Obama is coming from. First, we say Kamala a lot. Kamala in itself is her first name. And we don't address male candidates in that form, right? So I do want to address that because that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. But when it comes to her strategy and Obama's strategy, I see it as a form of protection. Unfortunately, we have seen how people react to people of color in certain occasions, and it is important for them to protect their image in certain scenarios. And to me, that's wrong. I think that we should be in a space where people should feel comfortable talking about not just the fact that they are people of color, but also now that we have Harris as a woman, I think she should speak about how that impacts her. But I also understand from a strategical point where they're coming from. So for me, it's I have mixed feelings about that.
The way I feel about it is we live in a man's world, and we live in a world that is full of sexism and colorism. So I understand her kind of downplay it because there's a job that has to be done. We cannot base certain things on this and that. We have to go straight forward. And it is an amazing feeling to know that there is a woman of color that is running as president, because now me and my children can aspire, and I can look at them and say, you can be whatever you want to be. Look at her. So if she wins or she doesn't win, she has made it's still history. It is still history that has been made.
On that issue of sexism, how much of a role do you think that could be playing right now, like we've heard the polls are always coming out, and we hear that, you know, one of the areas in which Vice President Harris has been struggling with a little bit is in terms of males. I know President Barack Obama's been out trying to get black males to, you know, throw their support behind the vice president. You know, there are polls showing that a lot of white males are supporting former President Donald Trump. Do you think that sexism, and, you know, I mean, race could play into this too, but do you think that, you know, sexism could be a factor in terms of the outcome of the election? Let's start with you, Shaleekah.
I really think it is because, as I said before, this is a man world. We've had male presidents. She was the first female vice president. We have Nancy Pelosi, who was the first House Speaker, female House Speaker. So we are moving toward a more progressive women's world. So it plays a big part, but we all riding behind her. So it doesn't play that big of a part, but we're here for her.
To me, it's evident that it's playing a big role, but I think it's important to note that exposure is important. Harris would provide exposure for people to see that women can lead roles, women can be at the forefront of issues. So I think, yes, it is a role, but I also think that it's really important to note that not only would Harris be the first woman, but also she would provide exposure for the future generations so that they can see that this is possible.
Thank you. So Amanda Gorman's 2021 inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb, calls on everyone, especially young people, to participate in the democratic process. Do you agree that young people have the power to affect change?
Yes, we do, and the younger children than us, they do. The younger children are ushering in these new ideas, these great and vibrant, they just have new ideas and new things, new policies, different ideas that can come that we can really use. We can usher out the old and bring in the new. So they play a pivotal role right now in how we move forward.
I agree. Young people have a unique power in today's world. We're highly informed, digitally connected, and more aware of issues like social justice, climate change, and economic inequality. Young people are able to use their voice because we happen to have everything at our fingertips. We have every news article available at the search of with our thumbs. And so I think it's really important to note that this is new. It didn't happen before. Before, I'm sure it was more difficult to find information. And so I think with this resurgency that we have of overload of information, we're at a unique point where we can use our voice, but we can also be informed. And with that, I would say that her words show us the power that we have now that we know what's going on, and that we're able to use facts and statistics. Like in my classes, because my major is global affairs, we talk a lot about the issues that are going on, and we're able to talk about things that we realized happened 5 seconds ago. I don't think that was a thing that happened before, and well, I'm just talking about digital connection. And yeah, I think it's really important to notice that and point it out.
Yeah, on that point about digital connections and social media, I mean, that's so significant when you look at the way that social media has been impacting our elections over the last few, election cycles, right? So for you all as young people, and I always ask my students this when we get to class, I like to know where you all getting your information from, right? Are you guys reading the newspaper? Are you watching, these various news networks? Right, and a lot of my young people will say, a lot of my students, will say, well, I get a lot of my news from Twitter. Well, it's X now, but they'll say, I know I go on Twitter and I get news there, right? And I'll say, well, are you fact checking this information so that you know that it's accurate or not? And I want to ask you all, as two of our student leaders, where are you getting your news from, and how much is social media impacting your thoughts about these candidates and these issues. Shaleekah.
So I get my news from everywhere, social media, TV. I am a big CNN watcher. But when I do find something on the internet, I do go back and fact check it, and I look it up because it's like, okay, let me make sure this is correct before I start informing people about the wrong thing. So.
On the point of misinformation, it's hard because I see on social media things that I sometimes don't know how to fact check. But what I really focus on is I subscribe to newsletters, I find reputable resources. Trinity teaches us to do that in the process, right? We learned about scholarly sources. And I think it's really important to know that misinformation is everywhere, but I also think it's important to fact check yourself and realize, yes, that's the case, but we ourselves also have that information. It just takes more time. So I try to do my due diligence.
Okay. So here at Trinity, here at Trinity, we have some very informed students. Obviously, social justice is very important here at Trinity to a lot of our students. And many of our students who are eligible for voting will go out and vote in a couple of weeks if they're not already doing so with the early voting, right? But you still have a number of young people who may not vote, or they may not know just yet, even in this late hour if they're planning on voting, right? So my question is, what would you say to young people, you know, other students here at Trinity or at other colleges who feel as though, why vote because my vote doesn't matter anyway? What would you tell those young people?
I come from the viewpoint that voting is a civic duty, as I said previously, but outside of that, I myself cannot vote. So I do see that people have that privilege, and these conversations happen. I talk to people that see it that way. Voting doesn't matter. But what I always tell people is voting is something that has been fought for. It's not something that came easily to some people. People like me, even let's say, even if I was born in this country, wouldn't have been able to vote at some point. And so I think it's that realization of I'm doing something that people fought for and that people, some even sacrificed their lives for. I think that's really important, and I think that helps shift a little bit of that perspective.
I would say a couple years ago, I was one of those people that said, my vote doesn't count, it doesn't matter. But my grandmother, my great-grandmother, rest her soul, she was very, very deep into politics. And when I came home, she always had the news on, she always told me policies and everything, voting, all that. So when I got engaged, once I got all the way engaged in politics, I was like, okay, what can I do? I started going to town halls. I started to listen to what my council members and my ward council members are saying. So to those young voters who feel like their vote doesn't matter, I encourage you, go to a town meeting, go to a town hall, listen to what people are saying, because yeah, the presidential might not affect you, but what is going on locally does affect you, and you have a voice in that.
Yeah, and staying with that particular theme, right? So we will have the election in a few weeks, but the work doesn't stop there, right? And that's what a lot of people who aren't as engaged as you guys are, you know, tend not to understand, right? They vote every 4 years, but then they forget that, well, we have congressional elections happening within the next 2 years. We have people running for mayor. We have people running for governor. We have a number of other things that are happening, right? And things that you could do to get involved. So even after this next election takes place, right, and we get a new president, what can each of you all do individually and collectively amongst your peers to continue to make political change and social justice a priority and make change happen over the next 4 years? Lakshmi, I want to start with you.
I would say it's as simple as using your vote, your voice. Your voice has influence. The fact that we're even holding this panel right now shows that. And so I would say, for me, the way that I see political involvement is not just voting, it's also going out and just being politically informed and engaging with politics. I have discussions with family, I have discussions with friends, and I make sure, and it's intentional because I want people to know about what's going on. So that's my answer.
So while I've been at Trinity, I have a professor, Professor CK, and I am currently doing field work. So I do campaigns, I do canvassing, I've made phone calls, I do text messages just to get everybody riled up to vote. And I just really want to continue to do this, and not only continue to do it for myself, but to inform others around me. When we had the debate, I had a debate party, both times, vice president and presidential debate, because I want my friends to not be ignorant to what is going on in the world. You need to know what is going on in the world or what is going on in the community so you can make better decisions for yourself. So like I said before, the activist work does not start and stop with the president, it's with us.
I tell you they were good, right? So we have just a couple more minutes before we wrap up, but two final questions. So first of all, both of you all are majoring in global affairs. Lakshmi, I know you're also in Latin American development studies, and then Shaleekah, I know you also have a major in political science, right?
And a minor in Africana studies.
Oh, excuse me, and a minor in Africana studies as well. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I mean, what do you all plan on doing once you graduate from Trinity career-wise? How are you going to use the education that you're gaining here at Trinity to go out and make the world a better place?
I think Trinity is really unique in the sense that it's in DC. And I'm able to engage in politics, and with a major like global affairs, it's really useful. So what do I want to do in the future? For me, I want to work in policy. I have been civically engaged from a very young age, even though I don't even have the privilege to vote. I started leading protests from the age of 14. And so I would say for me, because I've always been so engaged, I realized that grassroots movements are important, but also policy impacts people on the daily. And so my goal short term is to work for an organization doing research like a think tank or a nonprofit so that I can be more informed and I can better inform people about what's going on. But I also do hope to become a policy analyst in the future, so I'm actually the one that's writing and working on the policy that's impacting people daily. And I also want to note that I'm one of those people that really thinks about underserved communities, and I don't see many policy analysts that are focused on that. So that social policy aspect for me, it's really important because I'm even taking a course, Introduction to Statistics, and during our first lecture, we talked about how because of statistics, sometimes in certain cases, people are overlooked. And in certain scenarios, people are not looked at. And so it's really important to inform yourself, but also I'm hoping to, in the future, use those skills that I learned here at Trinity to become a policy analyst.
So me as well, I would love to be a policy analyst, but Professor Wright gave me an assignment about 2 weeks ago that told me to analyze different programs and what I want to do, and it was like, you know what, I want to do policy, but I also want to be a diplomat. And the reason why I want to be a diplomat, because there are so many policies that are made in different countries that have no respect to the people who are there. So if we can get in there, we can understand what these people need, our policies will be stronger, not just for here, but for everywhere else.
Okay, so lastly, we're going to do this debate style. Normally at a debate, both candidates will have a chance to make a final closing statement, right? So I'm going to ask you all to make one final, and remember, we're setting the tone for the rest of this day. Make one final statement to your fellow students, to our alumni here, just in terms of this election season, why this is important to you. Go on.
It has been an honor to sit here and discuss these situations with you, give my opinion, get out and vote, encourage those, and remember, it, like I said, it starts with you.
I would say that history shows us that change has always come from people who have dreamed of something bigger. I think it's really important to note that we're all here talking about democracy on the ballot, right? Because we're hoping to have democracy be efficient. And so I would say, in terms of setting the tone, and what I would want people to think of personally, is to think about using your voice and learning and informing yourself as an educated citizen in the future. I come from a background where people sometimes don't see themselves represented. And the fact that we're even holding this with us, I think it's really important. So I would say for me, like, my final thoughts are think of this as an opportunity to be informed and be more engaged.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.